Hello there, Mad Mike here. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about some news that is coming out of Marvel Studios. And it's been kind of a dry well of news for the past few days, other than the Gina Carano thing. But I've gone over that on Weaponized Nerd Rage's channel when we did a stream about it, so I didn't feel like making a video about it. But this is a little bit different. This is bad news for the Blade reboot, and that is that it's basically guilt through omission. I'm going to explain guilt through omission, and I'm going to explain it in a minute. But basically, the Blade reboot has been semi-confirmed to be rated PG-13. Now, the reason that we get this is because I believe it was Variety did an interview with Kevin Feige, who's the executive producer of all the MCU films, and he basically runs that ship over there, the ship that is gradually taking on water and sinking to the bottom of the ocean. And that is that the only R-rated film that a Marvel-related film that Disney is currently developing is going to be Deadpool 3. And by omission, that also means that the Blade reboot is not rated R, since he said that Deadpool is the only one that is going to be rated R. Now, there is a whole bunch of problems when you downgrade Blade to PG-13. First of all is the violence. Blade is a very violent character. He cuts people's heads off. He stabs people. He shoots them. He does all the violent things that we love in a vampire slayer. And even though the vampires themselves wind up turning into dust or something like that, it still is not good if you're going to downgrade that to a PG-13 rating, because there's a lot they're not going to let you get away with. The other problem is that Wesley Snipes, particularly when he was in the role, he dropped a lot of fucks. He said a lot of fucks in that movie. And a lot, even though a lot of it was ad libbed, because the David Goyer, I think it was David Goyer who wrote the movie, doesn't actually know how to write. So a lot of the dialogue for those scenes was just god awful. So Wesley Snipes just ad libbed, and it was actually really really good. But he that's all going to be removed. In addition to that, you also have you're probably going to have to cut down a lot on the blood and violence from the vampire side as well, because that's the other thing is, like, when Blade kills vampires, again, they just collapse into a pile of ash or something like that. He stabs them and stuff, but when the vampires are actually killing, usually they're killing people. And usually that is very graphically violent, especially when they have to rip into somebody's neck or something like that. And then in addition to that, there's a whole bunch of gruesome scenes from the first two Blade movies. I'm not counting the third one because the third one sucked. But the first two Blade films, where you have stuff like, people getting burned alive, and vampires getting torched with UV lights and stuff, and there's a bunch of really hardcore fucked up shit in those first two movies. And all of that stuff is not going to be able to go into this new Blade reboot, and I think that Marvel, by doing this, is kneecapping themselves colossally. And there's really no reason for it. The only reason why they always give for this sort of bullshit is that it's Disney, it's a family company, we make family movies. Families don't go to see R-rated movies. First of all, I think that's a little horseshit. You don't bring young kids to R-rated movies. I get that, but you definitely go to places with family members for R-rated films. And unfortunately, that's the whole bad news about this thing. There is some other interesting news that's coming out, though, where Wesley Snipes was asked if he would be willing to come back as a cameo role in the film, and he said that if they came to him and if the right things worked out, that he would. Now, I am in the opposite camp on this. I don't think, if this thing's going to be PG-13, Wesley Snipes should not be involved in it. Because they already did that with Expendables 3. They made it PG-13. It sucked. They did it in post, by the way, or at least from the looks of things in the movie. They did all of that PG-13 editing down and editing out in post. That film was not designed to be a PG-13 movie. If this is designed to be a PG-13 movie, including him as a cameo is almost like a slap in the face to people that like those original films, because it would be a shell of what it should be. Now, I don't disagree with casting Mahershala Ali as the lead. I think he can do a really good job with it, but I think you need to give him something that's rated R. And I think that I think that Marvel should maybe try and do something with Wesley Snipes, because it seems like they're bringing in some stuff from previous movie universes with the Spider-Man thing and some other stuff, and maybe the reintroduction of some of the Netflix characters. But I think you could make an old man Blade movie. I think that would actually work out really, really well, and I like that idea. Because the other thing is that in the first Blade movie, the Wesley Snipes one, they basically state that he still ages to some extent. I'm assuming that he just ages a lot slower than people, kind of like Wolverine, um, where he ages slower than normal people, but he still ages, unlike a vampire that just stays the same. So it would be interesting to see if maybe like an aging Blade and like an old man Blade movie. That would be really, really interesting if they carried that forward and did it correctly. Um, and I think that would net them a buttload of money. Again, it would similar to maybe like a Logan or something like that. Don't use the same setting, obviously, but have the character in that state where he's in an advanced state of age, and maybe there's something wrong with him or something like that. Again, try and kind of play off the Logan vibes with it a little bit, just because that movie did most of the shit right. But outside of those two things, I really don't see a lot of good things coming into this movie. And that's unfortunate because I do like the original two films. Blade 1 is still my preferable one over Blade 2, although I do like both of them. And it was a series that up until the third film, they did the action right, they did all of the set pieces right. The first film, the special effects was a little bit meh, but that's fine. It was I believe 1998. So I understand that the effects weren't exactly there, but I mean they did make up for that in the second film. The second film had a lot better effects in it, but the practical effects in both films I thought were actually pretty good. And I love Wesley Snipes' as Blade. I think he does a great job. I think he has the look. I think he has the intimidation. I think in certain scenes when he has that shit-eating grin on his face when he's fucking around and murdering vampires is just hilarious because he's just enjoying himself doing something that's well, I mean, it's kind of horrible because he's killing people, but they're vampires, so it's not really that horrible. Um, but like I said, it's a whole bad situation when you downgrade Blade to PG-13. It's not something that's meant for younger audiences. But those are just kind of my opinions on this. I want to know yours. Are you as let down by me that they're not going to make the Blade reboot rated R? Were you looking forward to it in the first place? To be honest, actually, I really wasn't. And what would you think if they actually did get Wesley Snipes to come back and do an old man Blade movie? Would you be interested in that? As again, assuming it would be rated R. Put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?